Hey guys, welcome to this week's concept video, and I'm sure you've judged from the title what I'm going to be covering today. After years and years of teaching, online during COVID and in person before that, one of the biggest areas of confusion among players is modes. I think when you mention modes to a lot of people, they just kind of switch off and freak out. And it was the same with me when I was a young kid and someone tried to show me modes, and it was taught in the traditional way. And obviously there's nothing wrong with the traditional way of teaching modes, but it can be quite confusing and very, very difficult to apply. So if you're anything like me, I grew up on the blues, classic rock, that type of thing, very much a pentatonic based player. And I've always found it relatively easy to make music out of a pentatonic. The scale is designed to sound good and musical and almost instant. So after many years of trying to figure out the mode thing as a teenager, I kind of stumbled on this little hack, and it works absolutely brilliantly to apply a mode instantly without having to reinvent the wheel and learn brand new patterns and try and make music out of all this new material. And all we're going to be doing in this lesson is taking a pentatonic shape and adding one note to the shape, and it's going to turn the pentatonic into one of the modes. Right, so let's first start off by just talking about the modes. And when I'm talking about modes, I'm talking about the modes of the major scale. Every scale in the world you can play different modes of, but when people refer to modes, they're generally talking about the classic modes of the major scale. And what those are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Those are the 7 modes. So there are 7 modes we are talking about today. Now, the first thing we need to do is figure out which of the modes are minor based, which of the modes are major based. So just for sake of ease, because we use as blues and rock guys, we use a lot of the minor pentatonic. Let's talk about the minor modes first. So you've got 3 minor modes within these modes. These would be the Dorian mode, the Phrygian mode, and the Aeolian mode, right? So those are your 3 minor modes. So what are modes really? I'm not going to talk about the traditional sense. I'm going to talk about what are they add to your music. Modes are kind of just like different textures, different sounding scales, and every mode has a different vibe and brings a different feel across to the song. So for instance, the Dorian mode, everyone describes it in a different way. Everyone hears it in a different way. I kind of really like the Dorian mode. I hear a lot of Derek trucks, that kind of sound in the Dorian mode. A lot of people refer to it as the Santana kind of mode. I just think it's a great minor mode. Some people refer to it as the jazz minor. Don't know why, but that's it all depends on how you hear it. The Phrygian mode has a very different sound. It's got more of an Eastern sound to it, Turkish, I don't know. You'll hear when I demonstrate these to you a little bit later. It's definitely got more of an Eastern flavor to it, and it can be a very handy tool if that's what you want to bring to your particular song. Then your last mode is the Aeolian of the minors, and this is also, the other word for it is a natural minor scale. Aeolian or natural minor scale, same thing. So some people refer to this as more of like a Spanish kind of sounding scale, traditional minor sounding scale. But the only way you can make your mind up is to play all of them, and you'll get your own feel and you'll get your own image in your head on what these sound like. So those are your 3 minor modes. And don't worry, I'm going to show you how to apply these to the pentatonic in a little bit. Very, very easy to do. Then you get 3 major modes based out of the major. These would be Ionian, or major scale. That's the other word for it. A major scale, normal major scale, or Ionian. Then you've got a Lydian and you've got a Mixolydian. Right, so if we look at all 3 of these scales, the Ionian, that's a very hard one to describe, or the major scale. It's the major scale. It's kind of the basis of a lot of music theory, is based out of the major scale. It's got that happy major classic sound to it, right? Super handy scale to know and to be able to play. Then we've got the Lydian scale. So the Lydian, once again, can be used over major tonalities. This is often described as a dreamlike, dreamy kind of sounding scale. Often used, I associate very much with guys like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai that use this scale a lot when they're playing in major tonalities, right? You'll hear when you play it, it immediately gives you that Satriani Vai type of feel to it. And your very, very last major one is something called the Mixolydian. Now, the Mixolydian is a little bit more of a dominant sound. It should be played over dominant seventh chords, but it's still considered a major mode because its triad would be a major triad. Now, that is described, as you can imagine, as more of a bluesy sound, more of a country blues sound. It's definitely got that kind of feel to it. And then your very, very last mode that's not considered to be a strict major or a strict minor is your Locrian. Now, a Locrian mode is played over a very specific chord, and that's a half diminished chord or a minor 7 flat 5 chord, right? So I'll show you how to apply a pentatonic and add a note to the pentatonic, sometimes 2 notes, to get these modes. So without further ado, this is how I do it. All right, let's talk minor modes first. And I apologize for the noise behind me with the amp. I just need the electricity is very dirty and on this part of the world. So, right, let's talk about minor modes. And let's talk about the key of A because it's a easily relatable key. So if I want to play either the Dorian, the Phrygian, or the Aeolian mode, my first stop is to play a minor pentatonic because they're minor scales. So my bass scale is going to be, or foundation scale will be a minor pentatonic. So let's take position 1 for now. Position 1, minor pentatonic, right? So if I look at the first minor mode, which is Dorian, I've got to add 1 note to the scale to make it a Dorian scale, right? And the note that we're going to add in, and this will be tabbed out too, will be, so that's 7 on the B string. And then you add the octave in 2, which is the 4 on the D string. Now all you're going to do is you're going to play your minor pentatonic like you normally play it, but you're going to add this note in, right? So but one step further, more than just adding the note in, you're going to highlight the note. So that means you're going to play it a lot, you're going to land on it a lot, you're going to highlight it, you're going to end phrases on it. Because if you use it as a passing note, it's not going to sound like the mode. You really got to drive home that sound. Now that note's interval happens to be the 6. Now the question you should be asking is all modes have 7 notes in them, and this is a pentatonic and we're adding 1 note which equals 6. Why is this the mode? Because the note we are adding in is the defining note of that mode. That's the note that sets it apart from any other scale. So this is the 6. So regular pentatonic, ending phrases, highlighting phrases on that 6. It's as simple as that. So now let's look at the next mode. The next mode is a Phrygian mode, the Eastern sounding mode. Once again, it's a minor mode. So we take that same A minor pentatonic pattern. No problems, but we add a different note in now. We take the 6 out and we add in the flat 2. And the flat 2 is really easy to find. It's the note that's 1 semitone up from all the root notes. So in other words, that note over there. And you can hear immediately against the minor chord, which I'll demonstrate in a minute, it's got that Eastern flavor to it. Simple as that. Let's look at our last minor mode, the Aeolian or natural minor. So the key note that we add into the same pentatonic, same process, we add in the flat 6. So remember, in the Dorian we added in the normal 6. So this is pretty easy to find the flat 6. So we take the Dorian note we added in and we flatten it by 1 to the 6th fret B string, right? And then we've got the natural minor sound. And it's as simple as that, right? So how do we practice these, right? This is all we're going to do, is go onto YouTube or wherever it is, get a 1-chord backing track, and this is very important. Don't get something that's got a full chord progression. Just type in 1-chord A minor backing track. That's it, and it just vamps 1 chord the entire time. And the reason I say this is because the chord progression often dictates which mode you're going to use. So the mode might work on the 1 chord, and the next chord, the mode will sound completely wrong. So that's another lesson all on its own. All we're trying to do now is feel the modes out, get used to adding the notes into the pentatonic, and getting a flavor and a taste for the mode, so you understand what these modes are. Let's now move to the major modes. So major modes is the exact same approach. Right, if we in A, so our first mode is the Ionian, or the major scale. So this one we have to add in 2 notes, right? 2 notes we've got to add into this one. So our base scale will be an A major pentatonic, right? So we take the same pattern. So obviously a major pentatonic is the same thing, just shifted back 3 frets. So your pinky is on the root. There's my base scale, my foundation scale. Now, to make this into a major scale, we add in 2 notes. And the reason we got to add in 2 is because the major scale is the base of most music theory. So there's not one defining note in a major scale. They're all pretty defining, right? So what we do is we add in the key of A, we add in the 4th fret high E string, which is our 7, our natural 7. And then on the B string, we add in the 3rd fret on the B string, which is our 4th. We add in the note plus the octaves, right? That gives us a major scale sound. So why not just learn the regular major scale? For me, when I learned the regular major scale, I learned it in a different pattern. I learned it like this. Which was very, very difficult to make music out of because I was used to the patterns of the pentatonic. So now all we're doing is we're still thinking major pentatonic, but we're adding 2 notes in. That's very, very easy to perceive and very, very easy to do. So now we've got A major and we've got Right, let's move on to our next mode. Our next mode is the Lydian mode, that dreamlike Satriani, Steve Vai type of mode. So, once again, take our base A major pentatonic scale, and the only note we add in, so we just add in 1 this time, would be the sharp 4. That is the defining note of the scale, and that sharp 4 in relation to this pattern would be 4th fret B string. So now we got the chord, right? We got A major, and we've got there's the octave of it. Gives you that Lydian sound instantly, right? Then we move on to our final major mode, which is the dominant kind of mode, but a major triad, which is the Mixolydian. Now, we can do this one of 2 ways. The way, if you want to do it the same way we've been doing it the whole time, we add in 1 note. That is the flat 7. That's the note that defines a Mixolydian scale. That's the key note. That note can be found in that same major pentatonic, but on the 3rd fret, high E string, and the octave. That note over there, right? And that's obviously played a lot over a dominant chord, a 7th chord, right? So that's the way to apply it in the same way we've been doing it, but I have a little different way I do it over for Mixolydian. All I do for Mixolydian scales is I take a minor pentatonic and I superimpose the major pentatonic on top of it. So the 2nd position major pentatonic. And you play it all together at the same time and you get a scale called a Mixolydian flat 9. Right? Sorry, a Mixolydian sharp 9 scale. And that's far easier, once again, for me to perceive, because I'm still seeing it as my minor blues pentatonic. But I'm also adding those notes to it. So the whole scale would look like... So now you've got... You get that sound. So it's really up to you. I definitely would recommend doing it the second way. It's very, very playable and musical. Let's move on to the final mode, Locrian. So as I mentioned before, the Locrian isn't quite a strict major or minor. It's a minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished. So if I'm doing an A half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, it's like an A minor 7, but the fifth is flattened. So the chord shape looks like this. Now this chord is more often than not used as a passing chord. It's not going to be a key chord in a song. It connects chords in. So if I'm going... See, I'm using it to kind of connect to other chords. So it's not going to necessarily be, unless you're doing a lot of the jazz thing, it's not going to be a chord you're going to use a ton. So here's the way I approach it regarding pentatonic scales, right? So what I do is here's my chord. I add in the flat 2, the same as the Phrygian notes. I add that note into the minor pentatonic bass. So I add in that flat 2, no problems. Cool. That's pentatonic. Next is pentatonic, and then I add in the flat 5, and then I put the flat 6 in. So, two things are happening in the pentatonic there, is I'm adding in 2 notes and I'm sharpening a note. So that's the way I kind of see it, is I'm going normal pentatonic, adding in the flat 2, same as the Phrygian, normal minor 3rd, normal 4th, then the flat 5, and then that 5th that I normally play in the pentatonic, I'm just sharpening to a sharp 5 or flat 6, whatever you want to call it, and then normal pentatonic at the flat 7, and the roots again. That is the way I like to approach the Locrian. I don't play it often, but that would be my kind of go-to approach. So just to round up things and just talk about how you practice them. I mentioned this earlier. Grab 1 chord backing track. So for the minors, all you type in is 1 chord A minor backing track, or whatever key you want to be in. Let's call it A minor. 1 chord A minor backing tracks. You practice your 3 modes over that 1 chord thing. Get a feel for it. Don't worry about chord progressions for now. Just get a feel for it. Get used to adding the notes in and get used to the sound of the modes. For the major modes, same thing. You type in 1 chord A major backing track. Right. And you take your major pentatonic, add the notes in, and you'll get a great feel and you'll learn how to play these. Remember, with the Mixolydian, you can use a major backing track, but you would rather use a 1 chord A7 or A dominant backing track, because that's really what it's for. And for the Locrian, I don't know if you're gonna find, you might, I don't know, find a 1 chord minor 7 flat 5 backing track. There might be something out there and you'll get a certain sound. There'll be a weird sounding backing track, but you'll be able to kind of mess around with it. So guys, I hope that helped. This helped me tremendously. It's helped students tremendously. And you'll instantly be able to play some modal stuff. Till next time, see you soon.